Welcome to Master Agent Mindset. Photography. Yes, I said photography. Why is that important? Because your clients think it's important. Because your clients are judging you by what you're putting on. And we're here to talk to two experts.
Hi, I'm Randy Shankula, and I've been known for quite a while as Randy from Spotlight.
My name's Stephen Hamberlin. I am Randy's partner, protege. Been shooting with him for about a year.
Okay. And so the topic today is why these agents are not using people like you or you to try to get their pictures so that way they can sell a property. I personally have been using Randy, going on 8 years?
10.
10 years.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's a long time. And the idea was before I used Randy, I thought I could do it all myself. I would take pictures on my cell phone, or back then it was actually with a regular camera. Remember those things?
I do.
Yeah. And so I took a picture and I thought it was great. And then my friend, he looked at a couple of my listings and he walked up to me, he goes, "You having trouble selling some of these?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You might want to look at some of my listings." And I went, "Okay." He goes, "Take special care of the pictures." He didn't tell me anything, but he insinuated, right? So I went, okay. So I went on and I looked at my pictures and then I looked at his and I went, oh my gosh. And then coincidentally, at that time, there was a awards benefit and I put in my cart. And so Randy, you want to tell that story?
Sure. I was shooting for Craig Tan at the time and was a member of the Berkshire Hathaway Home Benefits Program. And they'd asked me to come out and create a video of their golf tournament that year. And so I decided I would do a drawing and give away a free shoot. And so when I pulled the name out of the hat, it was Pedro. And I distinctly remember the very first home I shot with you, and he's been with me ever since. And I don't know the exact count, but it's got to be at least 150
it's up there.
Homes we've done.
Yeah, we've done a lot, and we've done some beautiful homes and not so beautiful homes.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of doing your dad's when he sold his home, so we go way back.
Yeah. And I'm here to tell you, I probably get at least a dozen or 2 dozen guys coming into my office asking me, why their properties aren't selling it on a monthly basis. And really the first thing I do is I follow the advice of a buddy of mine. And I asked them, how are your pictures? And every time it's crappy, just terrible, even out of Zoom pictures. And I'm like, look, you change that, you'll change your persona. You'll change the way people perceive you as a professional. It might not happen right away, but it will happen. And so one of the greatest things that I've seen is the turnaround is after they start using a professional photographer on their lives, because I watch how they start selling these properties as agents and their whole lives change. I watch them get new cars. I watch them, tell me they just got a house and all that. And I laugh because 6 months prior, they were struggling. And it wasn't just because of the picture. It's because they took a turn in their life. They decided to become a professional. And one of the things you can tell, one of the marks of a professional is their care on the photography aspect of the listing.
Absolutely. A number of the agents that I work with, in fact, some very top performers that I work with, they rely on the photography as part of their brand. And so when they go on listings, they help establish what their brand is. And they bring materials with them that will show what they do for their listings and what they've done on previous listings, and how it's not just the pictures that establishes their brand, but it's also their whole mannerism of their approach to selling that home, of which the pictures, we all know, is the biggest piece of the digital marketing material that they use.
Yeah. And Steve, right?
Yes.
So one of the things that I've noticed, and I want your opinion on this, as an agent, I've noticed some of the buyers that would come up and they would say to me over the phone usually, I saw the house that you said that you're highly recommending to me, but you know what? It's not the best house. And so I would pause for a minute and I would say, just a second, let me relook at these pictures. And then as they're on the phone, I look at these pictures and I look, oh my gosh, how terrible. But because I've been doing this and I've lived in this town since roughly 74. I went to Las Vegas High School. Man, I know this world here in Vegas, right? And I know what that house looks like because I've sold that model house at least a few times in my career. And I'm like, whoa, I have to turn the tide and tell them that the house isn't as bad as it looks in these pictures. So, Steve, what say you about that?
I think from what I've learned from Randy, I've been doing this. I've been in video and in production and TV production for about, went to school about 20 years ago for it, and I've been doing photography with Randy. And what I've learned is just the composition of the picture that really makes the home look like we see with our eyes. So it's that combination, and then we have an editor, Melissa. She edits our pictures, and I see the home, and then I see Melissa's pictures, and I go, okay, there's the beauty. I've seen the home, and the home is beautiful. But what Melissa does is she really makes the home. I don't know. It's magic what she does.
Yeah, the thing with in doing real estate photography is knowing what, and I don't know if I don't know if this is a good time to get into it, but the thing with if the home is adequately prepared, and the home doesn't have to be professionally staged, but if it's, and we can talk about that, I've got a checklist that we like to give out to people that helps them get their home ready. I've studied for years what the psychology of sight and what we do when we go into a home and what we look at first, what we look at second, what we scan. And I try and replicate that with pictures. So I try and give the end user, the agent or the prospective home buyer, a vision of what the home will look like as they're in it. It's not just a picture of a room. It's just not a snapshot of a bathroom or a bedroom. It's how does my eye see that, and how do I get it into some sort of media that we can present it? And it's 50% the photographer and the camera, and the other 50% is the editor. And the editor is responsible for making the colors look accurate, is responsible for making sure that the shadows are lifted, that the house doesn't look dark, that it looks bright and cheerful, and people will want to come see it.
Well, on that note, I want you to know something. I've been a little unfaithful to you.
Uh-oh.
And I went and I bought myself a really fancy camera. And I haven't told you the story yet. So I went out and thought I could take a picture, not even to save the money, because since I was a kid, my dad always had cameras and, always took us to Yosemite, all the way to Yellowstone. I know the whole Pacific West. Shoots, we were on our way to look at Mount St. Helen before it blew up.
Oh, man.
That's a true story. My dad's like, pulls over, he goes, yeah, we're not going there because we could see it. And we had to turn around and everything was dropped off. The ash was. We were going outside. My dad said, "Don't go outside of the train."
Oh my gosh!
So we had to head back. So that's a true story. So he always had an eye for pictures, right? So I was like, I needed an excuse to buy this fancy camera,
Yeah,
right? You know how much they cost. So I said, I'm going to go do this, and maybe I'll save money, maybe I won't, but I'm going to do it. Man, let me tell you something. I took some decent pictures because the camera is really good, but they didn't compare to yours. I'm serious. I mean, nothing. I actually had you reshoot it. I did. It was one of the nicer homes, and the client came in, and he called me. He says, why isn't this selling? And I'm like, hold on a minute.
Let me check out the pictures.
I looked at the picture. I'm like, I'm going to have a professional. He was a little, he was on vacation or something, but he'll be out there in the day or so. Oh, okay, Bear, no problem. But literally put it on. No joke. I wish I could say this was a lie or a story I'm making up right at the spot. It's not. The freaking house sold in 48 hours.
Wow.
Literally 48 hours after the pictures were posted, I had a contract. And I'm like, okay, I won't do that again. So basically I told my wife, I go, we got a real nice camera for family pictures, honey. So, but going deeper, Steve, one of the things I want you to address right now is you're talking about the beauty aspect of what it is photography brings to the table. And that's kind of what you alluded to, and so did Randy, right? Let's call it. It's art, period. It is art. And you two are artists. And I'm not here, and just for everyone's sake, Randy's not paying me. I'm not getting free film. I'm not asking for anything. I've never asked for anything because I believe people will do better work if they're constantly paid. So I don't ask for favors from nobody. Okay? So at the end, what I want everyone to understand is I consider, and you should too, your life a piece of art.
Thank you.
Right? I consider what you guys do amazing. Right? And even though you raise the damn prices, right? I'm good with that. It is what it is, inflation. But Steve, going back to you, I would like you to kind of go back and address that whole thing of how you see when you're looking at pictures online, what you see as far as the sellability. I mean, what's the difference in the pictures that you and professionals like you take versus the average agent that's trying to save a couple $100? Can you address that for us?
I can. It's pretty crazy. It's actually very interesting. Randy has turned this art into a science, but you can't have one without the other. What Randy has told me, he's like, I need to take everything that's in my head and dump it into your head. And he's done that for the most part with the science part of this. But what's interesting is, and I didn't know that I had this until Randy told me. He said, Steve, I could train people, and I've tried to train people, but you've got the eye. You've got the artistic capability to do what I do, to mix the art with the science. What I see when I look at pictures, because we go on Zillow or we go on Redfin or Realtor.com, and we check out houses before we go and shoot them. And what I see is people will hold their phone like this, right? They'll tilt it forward.
Like I don't tilt.
Yeah.
Forward.
Yeah. They'll have it up here where they can see it, and they'll hold their phone forward. And what we do is we have the camera about chest height, and Randy's, it's great. He uses an architectural lens, right? It's called a tilt shift lens. And what we do is we tilt the lens down. I don't even know how much, just we say till it looks good, and to where most pictures you'll see and you feel like you need to duck as you're looking at the picture, and the room looks small. And what we do is we bring the floor up and we bring the ceiling up so that you look like, it looks like when you're looking at it. That's one of the tricks. The other trick is really, as Randy was saying, making it so that when the person looks at the picture, it's a very inviting picture. It's you go there and you say, oh yeah, I can put my couch there. Oh, I can, and they start to imagine themselves in the home. It's just, and it's really fun. And I don't know, having all the lights on helps, having the windows open, or at least the blinds open, that helps. And we have a technique called the flambient technique that makes it so that you see the, excuse me, so it makes it so that you see the room and you can also see outside like your eye does. It doesn't blow out the windows. I mean, there's a lot of little tricks that people don't know of that we do, and that our editor combines the pictures that just makes the home look like you're there. And you don't get that with amateur photography. You don't get that with iPhone photography. It's just
I
not
agree.
possible.
And there is another side of this that that I want to bring up. AI is coming on strong. As a matter of fact, Adobe is one of the first to bring AI to the public. Right? It's been available for a little bit for professionals at a very high cost. But now you can go on Adobe and you can do some really good work editing and making your pictures look exceptional. What say you, Randy, about AI and all that? Have you looked into something like that, or?
Well, I think AI is a term that is way overused. I look at what Adobe has done with Photoshop, and it's just the software's gotten really good. They've engineered it so that it's not collecting information from you. It's not in trying to learn about your pictures. It's just that people who engineered the software are getting the software to recognize the things that we do. So it uses object recognition. And that's been going on for a while. Like there's software that can analyze a picture and determine what room it is in the house. There is software that can analyze the picture and go, oh, there's the sky, or there's a person, and it identifies it. But I think AI is kind of a term that is the buzzword right now. I think it's kind of overstated. But the thing that, and you mentioned it, the thing that the AI can't do is, and just because you have a camera and just because people have gone out and bought professional gear, and I mean, we're talking, investing thousands of dollars in camera equipment, unless they have the eye, unless they know what they're looking at, they can take, I call it snapshots. They can take snapshots, which AI can do is take snapshots. But the art is what goes on in the guy behind the lens. And the art is knowing what people are going to want to see and what makes an attractive picture. Anyone can take a picture of a house, right? Anyone can edit the house and make it look good. But there's so many things that go into just taking a picture of the front of the house that it requires years worth of experience, and it just requires what are the artistic points, what are the artistic elements I want to capitalize on so that this image becomes more attractive to somebody looking at it. They may not know why it's more attractive. They just recognize it as more attractive.
You want to tackle that same question there, Steve? AI or?
Yeah, I'm super into AI. I downloaded the Adobe Photoshop beta. I had a headshot and I wanted a different shirt because Randy said your shirt is too dark. So I, highlighted my shirt and said, give me a different shirt, and I have another shirt on instantly. Right. It's amazing. What I think AI is going to do is it's going to make us more efficient. It's going to make us faster. I don't know how exactly in real estate yet. I have to figure that out with our editor. I've been talking to our editor about incorporating AI. But if you know how to use artificial intelligence, it becomes, like those guys who put on the machines in the army. They put on like the RoboCop suit and they can lift anything you want. It just becomes a tool to help you just be faster. But Randy's right. AI doesn't have the ability yet to see a house and understand psychologically what makes people want to buy that house. And if you don't mind, I'd like to talk about Randy's credits for a little bit.
No, please
He's
do.
got pictures that have been published in Architectural Digest. Randy has pictures that have been on billboards in Las Vegas. Randy is, I call him a scientist when it comes to this stuff. He digs deep and he finds out everything about the camera equipment. He finds out everything he can about the psychological makeup or why people want to buy a house, emotionally what they're going through when they sell a house, when they're trying to buy a house. And what Randy does is he says, okay, I know this is a stressful time for the homeowner. I don't want to be in there for more than 30, 45 minutes. So we're going to try to get the house prepared. So we're going to try to be in and out because they have enough on their plate, the homeowner, the agent. And we name the pictures in a certain order that people want to see the pictures because, they flip through 25 or whatever. They don't want to see a bathroom up front. So we put all the bathrooms at the end. They don't really care about children's bedrooms. He knows that what sells a house is the curb appeal, the kitchen, the primary bedroom, backyard, if it's a great backyard, the living room. So we put those up front. He has spent years and years honing in a skill, knowing that people want to see something quick and they want to see something beautiful. AI hasn't figured that out yet, and so I'm honored to be a protege of Randy. He has.
Thanks.
You're welcome. He has spent a tremendous amount of time really patiently training me. And you would think it's just a picture of a house. It's not. There is so much that goes into this picture of a house, how you line up the driveway. I was talking about that tilt shift camera, how close you get and how low you want the picture to be in the frame. There's so much that goes into it with all photography, but you'd think walking into a house and shooting a house is a no-brainer, but it's not. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort to really give people what they want.
I agree with you, and everything you said has just really awakened me about what you guys really do. For me, it's always been, man, those pictures are amazing, but I never knew really why, But I will tell you, I've been all over the world, and one of the first things that I do is I go visit. For example, when I went to Paris, I went to Louvre. I went to all of the most wonderful museums you can imagine. I always make it a point to go and look at the photography in some of these museums. And let me tell you, I am flabbergasted every time. I'm like, how can they have done something so freaking beautiful? And I've seen things that literally I'd have to sit there for like 10 minutes while my wife or whoever is tugging me to go, and I'm looking at this trying to take it all in, but you almost can't. You need a lot more time to do it. The nuances of the body, and I'm not just talking about nudes, by the way, but the maybe they caught the mist some way on their face, the palm tree move in the ocean, something that was done at a precise moment that the artist, who is the photographer, knew to do, right? That they got it on film and they got awards, just like you, Randy, for doing it. So I honestly do believe is an art. So us agents have to understand that what we're presenting out to the public is art. And the better the art, the more chances you have of selling the house. And look, the whole idea of bringing in professionals to do a professional's job is complemented by what you're doing initially in the listing. So if they're going to see you as that professional and you're hiring professionals like contractors, whoever they need, someone to stage the property, a professional stager, a photographer, a landscaper. I can't tell you how many times I've walked into a listing and the house is a wreck. And I go in there and I look at the situation and I tell them up front, I said, you're going to have to drop about $1,500 before I'm really going to take this listing on. And some people looking at this are laughing and saying to themselves, yeah, right, Pedro, you're not going to take the listing. Yeah, I won't. All right, I won't. If I see it's too much work, I respect my own time and money, because every listing I'm dropping a few $1,000s of time and money. So I want it to be right. So here's what I've done. I don't send Randy out there until I know most of the time that the house has been landscaped, right? So I'll send over a gardener, and I have relationships with 2 or 3 that I've had for, same thing, 10 years. And literally when I call them, they drop what they're doing, they go over there, they make their money, and they leave. But when they're gone, the place has transformed. Then I complement that. I get professional landscapers, and they're licensed, the whole bit. Then I get Randy in there. Now you're looking at a different house. So I'll give you an example. In California, for example, there's a lot of houses built in the 50s, right? Now, if you like architecture, like you've just mentioned that you're into that, if you look at the architecture of the 50s, when they were selling it, and a good example, if you ever watched Back to the Future, you ever watch that movie? Yeah. And you see where they were going into the new houses, and you see how it looked in the 50s and how beautiful those houses were, and the nuances of the houses and the architecture and all that. Well, if you as an agent can get the house up to par. Now, there's been times where I've also brought in a painter that would just paint the front of the house, right? And paint the eaves, do the landscaping, and take the pictures, right? So at the end of this, the idea is you bring in these professionals and you make the house look like it looked like before they moved in, right? And maybe 50 years before they moved in, right? And then that way you have a better chance of selling it. So the idea here is you mix your professionalism plus the art that comes with these pictures. And here's the other thing. Going back to the AI real quick. I agree with you, Randy. You can't replace, Steve, you can't replace a man's eye with AI. You can't. All right. Now, right now, I'm in deep in all that. Okay, and I'm looking at, I've got the what you just mentioned with Adobe, and I've watched all kinds of YouTube University videos on that, and one of them that I saw was a guy that it came out a week ago, okay, and the guy was all freaked out, and it's 4 a.m, right, and the guy's like, okay, you guys, his hair is all shuffled up, and he's like, I just did this AI for like the last 5 hours. This is amazing. And on the cover and the thumbnail, there was a gal, and I don't know if it was a bikini or lingerie. Doesn't matter. The point is, that's why I clicked it, right? That's why I clicked. It's clickbait. Right. So I click it. What are they talking about? This girl in Adobe. What's going on there? Because I try to keep up to date with that stuff. So I look, and he grabs this gal, does what you just said, and tells it to put in a green turtleneck sweater. He does his cropping, hits the button, and now she has a seamless green turtleneck sweater, but more. Then at the bottom, you have a choice of where he wants the arm placements. So now she's placing her arm left, placing her arm right, bringing her up, and all of it looks beautiful. But you can't replace the initial picture, right? The initial picture, the way, the look in her eye, the way the lighting and all the other stuff, you can't replace that. You can fix it with AI. I believe that. And I think AI is even capable of copying a lot of what is done by man. And they can probably create some kind of art, but I think the art that man brings to the table, the eye, the perspective that man brings to the table, will never be matched, ever. Okay, I don't think AI can do that. They may be able, like he said, put an Iron Man suit on our pictures or our videos, but they won't replace the scenes and what was brought to the canvas. What say you, Randy?
Well, I agree. In doing research on the photography of a home, the human eye, and this is well known amongst photographers, the human eye wants to go in a circle when it looks at a picture. It wants to start someplace and scan the image, and this happens, and what we're going to talk about happens within microseconds with us not even being aware that we're doing it. But once you become aware of what you're doing and what you're seeing, then that can be replicated in a picture. So I've also learned that when we approach an object, say a building, a house, an animal, a bouquet of flowers, the very first thing we do is we look at the image. And this is the image, meaning it's not on film yet. We look at this thing and we see the whole thing. Okay, we see. Yeah, it's got a roof, or it's got wheels, or whatever. We see the whole thing, and then we go to something medium sized. So we're looking at a flower bouquet. Well, we see the bouquet, then we go and look at one of the flowers or several flowers, and then once our eye does that, it goes to something granular, like what's on the leaf. Is there a bug on the leaf? Or look at the color. And our eye and our brain does that thousands of times within the first second. And it's constantly going big, medium, small, big, medium, small. And so when you take a picture of a house, or you take a picture of anything, you want to have a pleasing main, something that people can get a grasp on what they're looking at. Then you want something medium, and then you want something small. Like, I love it when people put a red teapot on a stove. So you go from looking at the kitchen, you look at the stove, you look at the teapot, and you do that back and forth. And then the eye starts going, well, let's see what's around it. And the eye starts scanning the room. And every situation you find yourself in is unique. And I don't know how that can ever be replaced, by any machine or set of software. I spent 30 years writing software, doing software development. And I don't see, at least for the foreseeable future, having the computer power to do it and the software able to do what our mind does instantaneously without any thought, and it does it constantly. Whatever we look at, like I'd look at you. You know what I see? I see a big green box behind you. Then I notice your face, then I notice you've got a suit, and then I notice you've got really fine pinstriping in the suit. Then I go back, I see the green again, then I look at your face and I go, you got a nice trim beard. Your eyes brown. And it goes
green. But okay.
Yeah, green. I can't quite see them.
Okay.
But I was just, you go from big, medium, small, over and over and over and over and over again. We would get our pictures to do the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. And so just because someone calls themselves a professional, people need to look at their work. People need to look at their portfolio and make sure that professional is replicating what they want to be selling. And so just because someone says they're a professional, and I've trained a lot of so-called professionals, and it requires someone that has that artistic eye, that understands what people look at and what they want to see.
That's very well said. Well, look, we're going to start wrapping this up. Steve, I'm going to give you a word, then I'll give Randy the last word. And Steve, you want to wrap this up? What do you got to say?
Yeah, thank you. The research we've done, we've noticed that homeowners want to see 3 things before they even want to know the agent's name. One of those things is photos of the home. The second thing is a floor plan of the home. I don't remember what the third one is, but those three things they want to see before they even know the agent's name or who's selling. And I think it's important to have good pictures. I think it's important to have professionally taken pictures and professionals that are consistent with their pictures. Our pictures of a tiny 2-bedroom, condo are the same quality as our pictures of a $10,000 square foot home.
A $10,000 home.
$10,000 square foot home.
Yeah.
A 10,000 square foot home, and we have uncompromising quality for every listing that we shoot. And I think it's important for people to understand that your $200,000 home is going to look like the $2 million home as far as quality of pictures. Now, the staging is going to be different because $2 million home has some great views, some great architecture, but the quality of the photos and the care that we put into the photos and taking the photos and editing is the same.
Got it. Randy?
You make, it's not just about professional photography. It's also about, and I really like your comment about you're a real estate professional, right?
Yep.
And what makes you professional is that you don't use just okay people. You use tried and true professionals. So I just like to key in on something that you said, Pedro, about how you use other professionals. One of the things that the top listing agents that I work with, and I work with a number of them, but some of I shoot for the Carvers,
Oh yeah, they're great.
650 homes we've done for them. The things that they do and the things that other top producers do that are common is they team themselves and surround themselves with other like-minded professionals. You want that homeowner to say, I just didn't hire a guy to sell my home that he can do it. They want to feel like I really hired a professional that will represent me, that will represent my interests, and will represent my home professionally and will get us the best price that we can. And by surrounding yourself with professionals and not saying, well, I can do that or I can do this, it puts out that image, and that you want the entire production of selling that home to be as professional as possible.
And I couldn't agree with you more. And one of the things that I like to bring up is you cannot be in all places at all times doing all things.
Right.
Period. I get these rooks coming into the office always asking me, hey, how can I, make $300,000, $500,000 a year doing this business? And I said, well, you can't be everywhere all the time. Do you take your own pictures? Is one of the first things I ask them. Yeah, I do. Well, you need to stop that. Number one, your pictures are probably crap because you're not a trained photographer. But number two, and this is really important, you know how much time it's going to take you to edit those pictures so they even look halfway decent? You know how much time that takes? Well, I could do it at night. Yeah, well, you're going to be with your family at night? Or is this going to be all? See, I'm not an advocate, guys, on balance. There's no such thing. The most passionate people in the world that we look up to have no balance. If there is a fantastic artist, that guy will lock himself in a room. He will create something so beautiful, but he's neglected his body, his girlfriend, wife, children, life in general to finish that piece of art, period. So you can't expect to start taking these wonderful pictures off the bat without putting in 10,000 hours, because at the end of the day, a professional isn't even a professional until they have 10,000 hours. You can't tell me you're an expert at something unless I know you got 10,000 in. If I see you have 10,000 hours, that's one of the questions I ask almost everybody. How long you been doing this? Oh, I've been doing this 2 years. Oh, well, it's nice meeting you. Take it easy. I will not use that person. If they tell me they're in business for 10 years, 5 years, they've done this, they've done that, I can see they're passionate, then I'll use them. So at the end, the summation is it is art. You're going to use the professionals to do that art. And at the end, you're going to give the person that hired you the quality that they expected when you were first toting who you are to sell the property. Let's face it, what do we as agents do? Well, what we do is make sure we guide the people in the best way they can sell their property, right? As a listing anyway, right? So if you're not giving them great advice about photography and you're not making sure that that's done correctly, then are you really being a professional? Now, one of the things I want to talk to you about, maybe right now, I might have to have you back for this because it's probably a big topic, is staging a property for photos. You had mentioned a little red kettle. So we'll talk about that on the next show. What do you think you come back?
I'd love it. I'm happy to come back and support you, Pedro. I'd appreciate it. Years ago, people would say, well, what do I need to have the homeowner do? Now, it so happens that the homeowner needs to do the same thing for photography and showing the home. So it's one and the same list, right? And so I sat down and I went through and came up with what are the most important bullets for getting a home ready. And, it's real obvious you move the trash can. Real obvious you turn on the lights. But there's other things that need to be done. And we could go over, we'd have a lot more to go over than what we have time for here.
Sure.
And I'd love to come back and talk about how do I get my home ready? I've got this listing. Now what's next? I've got a contract on, I want to sell this home, but what are my next steps?
Love it. Love to have you here. Well, Steve, it was nice to have you, Randy.
Thank you.
And everybody, thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Pedro.
Master Agent Mindset. Have a wonderful day, guys. Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.